I have a treat for you for this next segment. Eileen Durfee started off as a client and then became a friend and has become family. And that's part of, I think, this experience of connection, the potential that can be there when we really open ourselves up and allow for guidance and flow to come into our lives. One of the things that has intrigued me the most about Eileen is her ability to get stuff done. I mean, for my mind, can be overwhelming because she is a genius. She's a nuclear engineer. She has multiple patents, sells in countries all over the world, and literally has these visions and dreams of different technology that she can create to help our bodies and help our minds continue to develop and grow and become the best that they can be. So we are going to be going over a lot of details, but I'm excited about that because I think we need to learn new information if we want to make a change. Sound good? Yep. Now, how has it been so far? Okay, good. I'm glad that you've enjoyed this. We have thoroughly enjoyed this, and I thank you for being here. So help me welcome to the stage Miss Eileen Durfee. Have a seat.
All right.
So we're going to do this one a little bit different where we're actually going to be doing a Q&A when it comes to health. So if you can, look in your bags, your gift bags, because Eileen is a rock star. Let me tell you. We talked about giving. She's the giver of givers. And she supplied you with her handmade skincare. And I'm going to let her talk about this. Yes, all the different samples. This is amazing. Not to mention this book we're going to go into a little bit different. But welcome, Eileen.
Well, thank you for having me.
I thought this would be kind of fun. So, can you tell us a little bit more about the skincare and why you created, what got you into all this?
Well, I didn't want to use toxic deodorants with aluminum. And everything natural, let's face it, by the end of the day, you still smelled. This was especially problematic for my daughter. I now have 5 grandkids, but when you're pregnant every 2 years and nursing with the hormones, it was really bad for her. So we played around with actually an ancestral skincare ingredient, which our ancestors used fat from animals. And so we played around with that because it's got a bunch of fat-soluble vitamins and antibacterial properties, anti-cancer properties, all kinds of things. And we blended up, I don't know, it wasn't quite like making the light bulb, but it was pretty close. And came up with some deodorants. There's 2 kinds. There's one that it's got a neutral smell. It doesn't smell like tea tree and it doesn't smell like lavender, but it has both of those essential oils in it. And then there's one that has the citrus blend with it. But to make a long story short, it takes about a pea size. I'm into non-toxic stuff, so we have the glass jar is what it normally comes in. These are just sample sizes. And a little bit goes a long way, and you put it on, and you're still able to sweat, but you never smell. And from the website, you can look at all the 5-star reviews. There was even one person who had body odor so bad that they were on prescription antiperspirants. And it worked for this person and many other people. And so they just rave about it. And so we have those. Then it was like, the grandson had eczema and issues with the skin. So we started playing around with balms so it could stay on the surface of the skin and be a little bit more protective. And then it came to people who are going like, well, this balm doesn't spread very well. What do you have for a lotion? So then we got into lotions. And
see, she solves problems. Like she's always looking for a solution to whatever's coming up.
Yeah, or just, I'm a gizmo woman, a gadget woman. I buy everything, and then it's like I just wish that it was this way, and then I go to sleep, then I see the dream, either in blueprint or just know what to do. And I love doing prototypes and playing around with things. But I mean, if you look at videos on my YouTube channel of what even 5 or 10 years ago, and then look at my face today, I'm going to
Well, look at the book.
Oh yeah, that's an old picture. But, for 60 years old, it's like this skincare has got such anti-aging benefits, but it's nourishing. Literally, I read a study for women body care products, your hair, your wash, your makeup, your lotions, everything like that. Women are being exposed to over 500 chemicals a day. Anything you put on your skin is in your bloodstream in 30 seconds. And so one of the big things for health is avoiding toxins. Because if you don't put it in, you don't have to try to get it out.
Yep.
So exposure is a really important thing and easy to mitigate, especially when you have alternatives that actually work better than the toxic stuff. And so I just wanted to provide you guys with samples. A big thing right now, is sunscreen. All the chemicals in it, a lot of them have been even recalled, that it's so hazardous to your health to wear sunscreen. So I'm a big proponent of getting out early in the morning, between 5 and 10 a.m., getting sun without anything over your eyes, so obviously you can get the light through your eyes to go to the pineal gland for health, for balancing your circadian rhythm, but also so you can build a sun callus, meaning you're not going to burn. Like the afternoon sun rays have high Kelvins, so you're going to burn more easily. But there's times, like, I go outside for 10 minutes, I don't burn, I just turn like a little Indian. But there's times when I'm going to be out in the sun for way too long, and so we needed a natural sunscreen. So there's a little sunscreen sample in there. People are raving about it. It works fantastic, but only put on a little tiny bit, because you'll see after you put some on, you start spreading it. It's like, oh, wow, People always make the mistake of using too much, but it's something they're all non-greasy. It's like if you are cooking and you got butter on your skin, you notice how it just kind of like absorbs and soaks in? That's what these products, your body loves these animal fats, and we take really extreme measures on the type of fats that we use and where we source them from. There's a co-op of farmers that only do grass-fed, nothing else, no shots. We can't get enough of it organic because a cow has 300 pounds of fat, but the only fat we'll use is the fat in the fascia sac right by the kidney. That's like 15 pounds. Then you cut it and get the good part of that out of it, and then we on really, really low heat. I actually had a special machine made to render this tallow, and it takes like about 5 days. We put in 200 pounds, so we only end up with 25% of that fat rendered. We call it liquid gold, and then that's what we use. And another important thing on studies, I read every morning. It's like my son is my meditation sanctuary, and I'm reading and I'm learning all the time. I don't know, it's just like what I like to do. And one of the things that's driving the cardiovascular disease problem now is because we went to using all these seed oils that are high in polyunsaturated fatty acids. Now there's studies coming out because, the taboo is like, animal fats were bad. Stay away from animal fats. So as soon as we did that, cardiovascular disease and problems went through the roof. So now there's new studies documenting and proving that it's the polyunsaturated fatty acids that are causing the problem, the inflammation, and that we need to be low what we call PUFA, and that includes what you put on your skin. So every jar of skincare, we calculate the ingredients, and then we put a PUFA rating. And they say that anything under 10 is safe. I mean, we have PUFA ratings of about 3 to about 6. So this is like, and almost all the ingredients are organic. And yeah, and it's just like they really work. So I wanted to give this to you guys, and you'll figure out that a little bit goes a long way on all of it. So.
Jimmy Burr, thank you. If you keep your pens out, you're going to get nuggets dropped if you follow Eileen. She's brilliant. And what I wanted you to see from that whole explanation is the depth and the certainty she goes into all of her products. That's why I use these products. That's why I use the sauna. I have one in my basement, and it has just been life-changing, which my wife keeps reminding me, we're still counting. And we have some we're still counting, so keep taking pictures. And tag Creatrix Solutions and hashtag Open Minds. One of the things I want Eileen to share with us is a spinal twist. Can you walk? So everyone kind of scoot back from your chairs a little bit. We're going to do a little something in preparation for what we're going through. So can you explain to us the spinal twist?
Well, between every vertebrae, you have a disc. And that disc is the consistency of a sponge. Like we've been sitting here, we've been inactive, it's the consistency of a sponge. If we do a twist, your blood vessels begin to pump nutrients to those discs, and it causes them to change into a gelled state, okay? And this is a thing that I actually teach people to do daily before nighttime. And then afterwards, laying over some special rolls. Because when you don't have gravity tightening your muscles, and you can lay in a position of rest after you've, caused this nourishment to enter your spinal discs, you can relax, and then gravity lets go of your muscles, and then it kind of trains your spine to have a better shape. And one thing, back pain, just low back pain in America is $100 billion a year problem. You probably have had back pain, know somebody who's had back pain, failed back surgery, et cetera, et cetera.
They can be debilitating.
And that doesn't even include the numbers for neck pain, upper back pain that's generated from this. And so I developed these special cushions because you cannot change where the muscles attach to your bones. Did you ever wonder, why do I have a tight muscle? It's because your bones are not in the right shape in gravity. And so this is a simple exercise, and what I would say, because everybody's at a different state of injury or spinal alignment, and so you never do anything to the point of pain. Okay, and so I'm going to demonstrate. It's basically you sit on the edge of a chair, you put an arch in your low back, but first don't try this while I'm explaining, and then afterwards we'll do it. I'll explain it again. Chin slightly up, arms out like a chicken, and I'm going to pretend like I have a rod going through. So when I rotate, I'm not turning like this. I'm keeping my body up, and I'm going to look with my eyes. So if I look to lead with my eyes, that's the point of it. And you go like this. And like I said, some people might only be able to turn a little bit. That's okay.
We all have to start somewhere.
We start where we're comfortable. But that's going to nourish those spinal discs. And then I have a special for the people in attendance here. They can get a sizing kit because everybody's back is different. Like you look around, you see flat backs, medium backs, forward heads, you got all this. So we have 5 different diameters and 3 different densities. If you're injured or have pain in your body, you want a soft one. If you're not, you want a medium. And then if you're athletic, you want hard. But these are sized so that we can keep on encouraging to go from a flat back to a normal curve. So our muscles then release. But it's a phenomenon when you lay over these rolls, you'll hear your bones pop because it's got a groove. It's kind of like keeping the train on the track. Your muscles let go and the bones drift and you feel relaxed. one quick story.
Hold on, let's show them
do
how
the
to
back
do it.
twist. Okay, up. And then you twist, go slow, never to the point of
And
pain.
you put your chin up, right?
Chin up.
And you go as far as you
Arms
can.
up like a chicken. Yeah. And you do this like if you were going to lay down and relax about 30 times. We don't need to do that many now. But that actually is just, stretching and...
So you're opening up the spine more.
Yes.
You're getting more flow, which we're going to be talking about the importance of flow within our spine. It's crucial. It's a crucial part of our, spiritual awakening process.
Yeah. So I have a sizing kit because everybody's different. How do you know? I have 30 cushions. What am I going to buy? So I have a sizing kit. It's normally like $104. I'm offering it for $25. So if you want to see me, I brought some of those, and you can buy them. That way you don't have to have shipping. You get the special show deal. Then you can lay down, and I have a video and a written instruction sheet on how to size these and everything else, so it makes it easy. But the story about the little boy who fell off the trampoline and wrenched his neck and was having seizures, went through physical therapy, chiropractors, you name it, the guy was still having seizures. I gave him my prototype cushions and taught this 12-year-old how to do the back twist. His dad came back to me a month later. He says, Eileen, he takes those everywhere with him. He does it every day. He's never had a seizure since. It's so simple. Relax. Then you can multitask. I'm always stacking my hacks.
Yeah.
Defying time. You could read while you're laying there, and it's just going to sell itself because your tight muscles and your pain is going to improve. So I just really know that everything from our brain stem goes down our spinal cord, out between our vertebrae, and when those are pinched, those supply messages to our organs. They could even be atrophying if we're pinched and have back problems. So that's why I'm so excited that Spencer had his brother here adjusting all of us, because I'm such a believer. But that's one of the things that we have for you.
Thank you. I mean, if you think about it, when we talked about yesterday how when we're in a state of survival, we're not so apt to being creative. We're less likely. You heard that from Dave. He explained it in a different way, but it's the same principles. And so when you're in pain, it activates more chemicals in your limbic system, so that way your physical senses are then more heightened, and then you're stuck. You feel more stuck, and you may go, my back is stuck, my neck is stuck, or stiff, or however you want to translate into your own language. And so finding small solutions to help us improve our quality of life is really what Eileen's all about. And it's been really life-changing.
Can I tell them a quick story?
Yeah.
They ripped me out with forceps. My body was twisted. Every time that I walked when I was little, I rammed my knee in there. I've known pain my whole life. I had to wear special shoes. And then to top that off, I grew 9 inches in 3 months, if you don't think that's growing pains. Then I was ran over in a parking lot by a car, and I couldn't even lift my hands, and it felt like I was being stabbed with daggers. And that's when I met the chiropractor that coined spinal fitness and worked with pro teams and the Olympic team. And so I've used his principles and improved on that and developed these products. I have 3 design patents and 2 utility patents just on spinal fitness products. But that wasn't our main focus today.
That's okay. No, so can you tell everyone how we met?
Yes, I'm from Kennewick.
That's where I grew up, in Washington State.
And I had moved back because I had been living in Wenatchee, and I started my health business based on direction from God, and a chiropractor that I was going to in town, told me about this event and said, you just really have to meet Spencer. And so all these different practitioners were there explaining what they had to offer, and we were kind of like a meet and a greet. And so, I always try everything. Like I said, I'm a gizmo woman, or I'm learning anything to do with health. So of course I bought, spent $300 for a session. Then I never scheduled it. It's like life got busy because I thought, I really want to dedicate my time to this. And it's just like everything was just snowballing. And then I was cleaning out a purse and found his card. 8 years later. And I'm going, okay. So I felt inspired to call the number, and it was disconnected. I emailed, it came back, and I remembered, we're friends on Facebook. So I messaged him, and the Spencer's going, well, gee, I usually don't honor things that old, but God told me to work with you. So he had openings, but God told him not to schedule with me that week. It was the following week. So a lot of things have been happening in my life. I've been through hell and back. That's like a whole nother life story.
I can verify that.
But anyway, my husband falls dead, on October 11th. And then it was the next week that we had our first session. And, I do a lot of things like craniosacral therapy and, all just kinds of stuff. So I've had experiences where, things really change in your physical body. But here I am, I think on our first session, I was driving somewhere, so I pulled off. I was in the Walker's furniture parking lot, having my first session on the phone with Spencer.
I'm always curious what's happening on the other side of the phone.
And, here Spencer is in Utah, and I'm not telling him, everything that's going on or, things like that. I mean, I did tell him about my husband and, that kind of situation. But what he picked up on, I wasn't even aware that my brain was controlling my physical body. I was so tight in my diaphragm, and one of my defensive mechanisms to make it through all the abuse and the trauma and everything I've been through with my life, because I just had this thing of it, no matter how bad it got, I always looked that there was a good to it, but I made myself tough like a machine and not to feel. But I was clenched up inside to the point where I couldn't even breathe. And here I feel this energy impacting my body, and he's telling me to deep breathe, and all of a sudden it's just like loosened. And then he's telling me about the trauma of different family members, how they speak to me. And, then there's multiple other sessions to the point where I realized, I thought I was pretty brave, just about anything, and I'm a woman of action, but I didn't realize that I had phobias. It's like he was explaining to me that, you can be scared of a spider, but you have a phobia if you won't go in the room because there's a spider there. And I would prepare how people would down talk to me, belittle me, or things like that. I would prepare for the worst, and I would tighten up my abdomen and my breathing. It would affect my digestion and everything. It was just like this automatic response. And so then after he'd freed me up, and I'm driving on the parking lot, I'm just feeling this energy just flow, like I just had a physical cranial session or something, And then, I get in the presence, my dad comes over. It's like, my dad I guess that's why I'm such a hard worker and a perfectionist and all this kind of stuff, because, when you're told that if you don't do something right the first time, even if it's very difficult, that, the expectations were so high that, your head's doing nothing but keep your backbone from unraveling and just demeaning you. So I became the pleaser, see. So then here I am all free and all this, and I go back and my dad walks in and I'm like, I'm tight again. How do I get this untightened? So I'm calling Spencer, emergency. So then, working with him, for a year with private sessions has transformed my life. It just, I get help from above. These visions, and things, I hear audible voices. God tells me answers that I don't have to figure out with my natural mind. Even though it's like people say, you're a genius. Well, it's like, I'm getting help. Well, Spencer's getting help. God has actually showed me Spencer's future. I'm prophetic, and it's just amazing. And so I would just encourage, it is so worth it to do this habit finder thing. Because it's impacting your health and your physical body. You don't even know it. Here I've been doing everything I could for my health, trying everything, and just find out I have phobias that I didn't even know. And so it's just transforming. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you. One of the things that I wanted to do as I've been going through this Habit Finder program, I went through as first to be coached, and then I went through the coaching program and learned a whole another set of information. And it really was transformative. Last year with working with a group, I found, because it is a journey and is a process of learning, I found holes that I was needing to fill. And so one of the things that in pairing up with Eileen is in your booklet, or not in your booklet, in your bag, she provided this really informative information. This is another book. It has her information right here, Wellness Shopping Online. But this is to talk about a hair analysis. Now, part of the group coaching program is you're going to get tons of knowledge from the books, from the binder, from the videos, and working with Dave Blanchard, bless his heart, for being willing to come in on some of these other conversations. But we're also going to be including a hair analysis. And the reason about this is because we need to also be aware. We need to also be aware of what is going on with our physical body and the stresses. So part of the program is getting a hair analysis done, and you get a report, and you get really good information. Eileen will go into a little bit more. But I wanted to match, as we're working with the mind, we also work with the body, right? And then we add in more of the body talk. So it gives us this trifecta of body, mind, and spirit, and ways to continue to develop them that can really be customized into a lot of areas. So why do we want to know, with the hair analysis, the report, like the burnouts and the different things that are going on, how will that help us move forward, or learn more and take more from the Habit Finder program?
Right. Well, it tells us a lot of things, because your blood has to circulate for over a period of time to actually end up being in your hair. And they did a simultaneous blood, hair, and urine 10-year study. So there's patterns on a hair analysis that tell me everything from your blood sugar to whether you've got inflammation in your body, about your hormones, why you're not sleeping, why you can't lose weight. I mean, it's just all these things that tell us about what's going on at the cell level. Now, blood works, you have to fast sometimes for blood work, and blood work changes, quickly. And, it gives us adrenal ratios, thyroid ratios, and one thing a lot of people get are thyroid blood work.
Yeah.
But I've had some clients where, just reading the circulating amount of thyroid hormone is not the whole picture. What about the rate that hormone gets into the cells? That's dependent on cell permeability. So if you have...
Put that in a smaller language.
Okay. So the thyroid hormone has to get in the cell and then combust. So there's 3 steps to that. So the hair analysis tells us the end result.
So how well it's combusting.
Yeah, how well it's combusting, what it's doing at the tissue level. Because I've literally had people that had an overactive thyroid because the hormone went into the cell too fast, so the doctor medicated them, and then they got nodules and had to have their thyroid radiated. And it was a misdiagnosis because it was not looking at the other 2 steps. And so the other thing is that we can medicate ourselves and then atrophy our glands. Yep. Because our body doesn't need to produce that anymore because we're adding it in. And so the thing about the hair analysis is we can actually rebuild the body. The problem of why people are so burnt out, the first symptom of an imbalance is fatigue. So how many of you can wake up like refreshed without drinking your coffee or your whatever that you do to get going in the morning? That means that...
Hold on, let's see. How many? Good. Okay, how many of you guys deal with fatigue? I want higher. Yeah.
So what's going on...
So we're burned out.
Is a principle, and it all stems back to the food. The USDA even has a published study where they analyze the nutrient contents of food in the 1940s compared to today. you'd have to eat twice as much food to get the nutrients. So why do we have cravings? Why are we eating too much? Why do we weigh so much? One of the reasons is we don't have the nutrition, so our body won't stop because it wants to have the minerals and it wants to have the nutrition that we're not getting.
The body wants to work.
Yes. And what the body does, the way we're created, is if it doesn't have, I call them like new car parts. You know, it's like if you're driving a jalopy, you know, maybe the duct tape will work and baling wire, or you'll carry your jumper cables around instead of replacing the battery, but then you can't drive with the headlights working and all of that. It's like the body, every cell in your body has what they call this enzyme binding site. And every cell to be normal has to have the right mineral, like God made calcium for our bones and teeth, not for our joints, our hair, or our cardiovascular system. But there's a cellular thing. If you're in adrenal burnout, you're not having enough hormones to activate this piece of equipment that's really efficient to put calcium back to where it needs to go. So you're going to have two dysfunctional cells. Wherever the calcium went, in your hair to make it gray, in your cardiovascular system to increase that plaque, so then your body's going to make cholesterol to band-aid it over. And then you're going to have a toxic metal, because the body would rather have something that works maybe 5, 10, 15% than nothing at all. Yeah. And so lead is right next to calcium on the table of elements chart, and it doesn't need energy because they don't call them heavy metals for nothing. It just can go up that vein to the cell and attach there, and then you have some function but not enough function. And every time you have those adaptations, it's like instead of using your key to go in the front door, you're locked out. So you go around to the back door, climb up a ladder, go in a window. You got there, but look how much energy you spent. So your body's like got all these adaptations where it can't run like a new car. You're a jalopy. And so the reason why...
What's a jalopy?
It's like a decrepit car that is held together by duct tape and baling wire and substitute parts. It's not like new OEM car parts.
Gotcha.
And so, you know, one of the reasons why I'm not a fan of chelation, even natural chelators, is it doesn't fix the reason why you had to have that lead or that cadmium. And those natural chelators take good minerals with bad. So if you're already low on your good minerals, taking more does not solve the problem. So we want to fix the problem, and then the hair analysis tells us exactly, because it's like tug of war with gorillas. Yeah. If there's, you know, this imbalance over here, we put these synergists and these antagonists over here to kind of get you over here, then cellular mechanisms start working, and the body goes, oh my gosh, I hit the lottery. You mean I can get calcium where it needs to go? I don't need lead anymore. So then you dump a bunch of lead, and then it shows up in your hair sample. and so then we just keep on retesting. It's for the guys in here, you probably think about a race car having horsepower and torque. That's all related to how much fuel you use and how much air. So like if Granny's driving the car in 6th gear going 5 miles an hour, chug, 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 you take it in, there's carbon buildup everywhere, and the mechanic says, oh, it's running too rich. So they, you know, increase that air, they lean it out, and then it drives great for like about a week, and then it's doing it again. You take it back and, oh yeah, that carbon mobilized and it went over here and clogged this sensor. So let's change that sensor. And that's kind of what happens in your body is it's like peeling you like an onion. And the other thing is that I wanted to explain is that in the wellness revolution, like when COVID came out, everybody's taking zinc. You know, but, you know, the farmer understands minerals and how they move on planet Earth, but people in the wellness revolution do not. It's always, let's take something to chase a symptom, or let's take something because it's good for something. Not looking at that on the table of elements chart, zinc lowers sodium and raises potassium. What if sodium's already too low? Sodium and potassium control the rate at which a cell opens up, lets metabolic waste out and takes nutrients in. So if you make that worse, you can be more prone to infections. You could have tissue breakdown. Even a prolonged low sodium potassium ratio is just about every cancer patient. They have that. And so we don't want to do that. And it's like the farmer, he gets his soil test back. Okay, this is how much nitrogen to put on the soil. He doesn't do it to get nitrogen in the plant. Nitrogen releases calcium. So they understand this, but all of us take multiple vitamins and all these things that are good for us. Me, I did that. I chased my symptoms. I had candida, I had all these problems. I couldn't sleep, I had anxiety, I was constipated, so I was taking large amounts of calcium and magnesium. And then I developed really bad joint pain and arthritis, and I didn't put two and two together. That I caused displacement of calcium into my joint tissues and created that problem. And so with hair analysis, I mean, I was doing everything from Tesla machines and Lekowski and Rife machines and all this kind of stuff, and I'd have to go sit in these machines, and I called it zapping. And I could be pain-free with no medications. And then when I started hair analysis, it's like, oh my gosh, it's been 5 days? No pain? I don't have to go in there and hook up to that? See, energy, everything is energy. Like a dead car battery, the reason why it won't hold energy is because the minerals were out of ratio. So in our body, we're trying to do all this energy work, but if we're laid up with all these toxins, we're not going to conduct energy in our bodies. So that's why we see such a dramatic improvement in people that begin doing the hair analysis program. And I even, because I would do all these consults and I would interpret this for people, and I got tired of saying the same thing, so I actually created my own software program. So now we just punch in the numbers, and it creates this pattern report, and it even tracks your up to 5 hair analysis, so we can do progressions, and and I can tell you, predict. This is the other thing is it's predictive way ahead of time. My mother, she passed away 3 years ago last December from ovarian cancer, but I knew for 10 years that she was going to get cancer. And she refused to change her life. Initially, she was taking care of my 99-year-old grandmother. I mean, she never went outside. She was just cooking, cleaning, bathing her, doing all this kinds of stuff. Then her great-grandkids, she basically raised them, and I was trying to get her to go out and walk, get out some sunshine, do coffee enemas. I gave her a sauna. I gave her everything. Would she use it? No. And the stress. And she didn't get help from being bitter and having unforgiveness, and just all these things ate her up, and I knew it. Every time I got a hair test, I'm like, oh, Mom, I'm pleading with her. And so this is predictive. Even in people that fall dead with heart attacks, I gotta tell you a story. Like all these bodybuilders and these athletes, you read about them falling dead of a heart attack and no cardiovascular disease. What's going on? They're all taking all these juicing up things, even natural stuff that raise sodium, because they're pounding their adrenal glands to get bigger muscles and be more powerful. But when it gets to a certain level, the blood vessels will constrict because there's too much adrenal hormone being pumped out. And because those constrict, it causes adrenal glands to pump out more hormone, and it's like a dog chasing a tail, and they'll fall over dead by a heart attack. Now, I've seen hair analysis where people were like that. I could tell them, and I'd say, what are you taking? And, this and that, and remove the sodium stimulators and all these things, and then get them on the right supplements to calm that endocrine system down, and I can save lives, So hair analysis, I just think it's so primary. And the other thing is my late husband, like, you see energies in colors. Well, he saw the spirits of sickness. And the spirits of sickness were attracted to energy leakages. And so when people have imbalance in their minerals, their body loses energy, which attracts the spirit of sicknesses. And so what he saw when I was working with clients that would get on the mineral program, their energy leakages
Go away.
would go away, and then the spirits weren't attracted to that anymore. And so with, prayer, I believe in supernatural healing and everything like that, but I've just had really great success with using hair analysis, and I really just think it's primary. And so I didn't even get to tell you because you were busy, but if you're not one of the 20, because I know there's 110 people here, so not everybody can be one of the 20 to get the hair analysis program included. That is $230. I've created a coupon code, OPEN75, and it's going to take $75 off of that. And there's that QR code on the back of your newsletter. And actually, everybody who ever reads that newsletter,
You'll want to
you have such an aha moment that you'll order it. It will be life-changing for you. But that QR code goes right to the product that you can order, that you can take that $75 off and start that journey of helping your body transmit, increase energy levels in your body. And you're going to be able to detoxify in a safe way. And I have all kinds of videos and podcasts about everything we've talked about, like multiple. So, follow the YouTube channel and then go in there and pick and see, and you'll hear my more complete life story about what I've been through, what I've overcome. And I'm like sitting here at 60 years old, feeling better and healthier than I ever have in my life because I had been sick my whole life. And that's why I don't want people to suffer, when you have something that can work for them.
It's amazing. That's really amazing. I just love her passion. I love her passion for it because she's gone through so much to find answers. And so whether you got, when we talk about consciousness of separation, the illusion that the mind or the body or the spirit are separate, and that separation of mind or body doesn't really exist. And so if your body's having issues, it can be impacted by the mind. If your mind's having issues, it can be impacted by the body. And so we in my mind, what I saw was using body talk as a way to bring people into a state of balance, getting rid of as an alternative therapy to help them and move through things. But then once they get to a place of, okay, I feel more stable and more secure, now what? And I remember just keep getting that answer, like, okay, now what, Spencer? I'm just like, I don't know, go live your life, but I just kept looking, and that's when Habit Finder came into my life. But I also knew we needed something to find a way to check the physical body, and where I'm not a doctor and where I've had to find resources like Eileen that could bring you analysis and bring you tangible evidence of what's going on with your body, because it's so powerful when you realize that you're not crazy, that you're actually fatigued for a reason, or your mind is responding a certain way for a reason. I love the assessment. I love the hair analysis, and I think bringing it together is really profound and will really help you grow.
Another aspect, they did a study of all the Cook County Jail prisoners. All of the ones that had high iron and manganese were the violent offenders. And basically, minerals dictate emotions. That's the other thing, we're going to pull down every lofty imagination that comes against, the knowledge of God. But sometimes when those thoughts and those feelings and those emotions come up, it's often tied to a mineral imbalance that when I get people on the mineral program, then those things fall away so you don't have to feel like that anymore.
Yeah.
And so it's not just about you having a disciplined mind or not being grateful or anything else. It could be that your electrical firing and your cellular mechanisms are just in this state where you can't think any other way. And so there is real freedom in this for a lot of people for a lot of different reasons. Everything from pain to not sleeping to being anxious to,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, thank you. Please help me give her a round of applause for all the work that she's done.